Hello there, lovely listeners. It is Pamela R Haynes here with another episode of the Author to Author podcast. I trust that you all are well. Thank you so much for your lovely feedback on episode 0 and episode 1 so far. I'm having a wonderful time interviewing authors, and it is good to know that you have enjoyed listening to the podcast so far. A huge thank you to Jade at Redbridge Central Library for hosting me for their Black History Month event. And thank you to those of you who came out to support me. I really appreciate you. Don't forget to use the Dalgety discount code A2AS4 for 10% off your next Dalgety tea order. In this week's episode, I interviewed Nazish Qazi, author of Lessons from a Frog Princess. Let's jump into her interview now. See you on the other side. Hello there, Nazish, and welcome to the Author to Author podcast. It's great to have you here.
Hello, Pam. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
No problem at all. So let's start then with where you are in the world, where you're from, and where you are now.
Well, I live in Spain, but I have an international background, shall we say. So my parents came from Bangladesh. I grew up in England. I've traveled all over, and I finally settled here in Spain. So, yeah.
Why Spain as opposed to anywhere else?
Let's say I'm a Latin lover. Having traveled all over, I was always looking for where my heart felt at home. And I remember being in Latin America, Puerto Rico, Brazil, Mexico, and all of those places, and just loving the language, loving the Spanish, and wanting to live somewhere where it's warm and sunny, and also where I feel I fit in. So I think I must have had a past life somewhere in this end of the world. So here I am.
And how long have you lived in Spain?
It's just over 5 years now. Yeah. But before that, I was living in Germany, and before that, I was living in England. Yeah.
So describe for us a perfect day in Spain.
Oh, a perfect day. Perfect day would be, for me personally, say, spend the morning doing my writing or working on my workshops and doing the work that I'm passionate about, which is coaching, and spending the afternoon having a stroll by the beach and reading a good book. And I think, and in the evening, having a nice meal that I've cooked at home.
It sounds idyllic. Well, thank you for describing that to us.
Not that happens often.
But it is a perfect day with all the right settings. Yeah. Thank you for donating 2 copies of your book, which is called Lessons from a Frog Princess. Tell us what inspired you to write this book.
Well, that's actually a very long story because I have experiences from my entire life in there, starting from when I was 13 right up over the next 3 decades. What inspired me is the fact that I had been through so many heartbreaking relationships and had very little support or help that was really of any good, or that actually helped me through those breakups. Yes, I had friends. Yes, I had family, but nobody actually gave me any sound advice or support that would really help me to recover and to take the right road. Because what I found, as many of us do, is I kept on repeating the same old story in my relationships and never seeming to move forward, and always ending up with my heart broken and thinking, what am I doing? Where am I going? And so I eventually came to a point where I thought, do you know what? I've learned so much during that process, that journey. And I've grown so much from where I was when I was young and starting out on my romantic journey. Wouldn't it be great to actually put those lessons in a book? And that's what I've done. So there are 9 poignant lessons in the book that help the reader go step by step towards healing from their own divorce, separation, difficult relationship, whatever they've had in the past, to a point of not only healing, but growing from a deeper, authentic self and finding who they truly are, so that then they can attract the love that they truly deserve. And I show them the steps to how to attract that right person.
At first, I thought it was a fictional tale. But
Mm-hmm.
then I soon discovered that it's non-fiction, it's a self-help book. So you encourage the reader to grab a pen and paper and bits and pieces to complete some of the exercises that are
That's
in the
right.
book as well. And definitely it's like holding up a mirror
Yeah.
and looking at your reflection and looking at yourself more deeply on multiple levels, not just on a
Yes.
superficial level, which is what I quite liked about the book as well. So, who is your book aimed at?
Well, I'm so glad you had a chance to look at that, and thank you for noticing that it is about diving much deeper into oneself, because that's where our pains and traumas are. So who is it aimed at? It's aimed at anybody who has had a relationship that didn't work out and don't want to continue being in that scenario where they might attract the same kind of person again, or take that pain into another relationship, or they want to attract another partner. So it's for the majority of us, men and women. So yeah, it's for people who want to find their way towards a much healthier, happier future relationship with themselves and with their special other.
Well, as you said, it covers 9 particular lessons that you learn along
Mhm.
the way. In particular, I wanted to delve into lesson number 4, which is called Know Thyself,
Mhm.
recognize your whole self. I love the illustrations, by the way, that's
Thank you.
all the way through the book, and I love that they're color as well. Are you responsible for the
Oh,
illustrations?
absolutely. Those are my illustrations. I had a lot of fun doing those.
Oh, fantastic. So, are you an artist alongside being an author?
You could say. I don't consider myself a true painter artist. I kind of do it just for fun. My first career was in art and design. So I did study graphic design and I went to art college, and I still love painting to this day. And it's one of my favorite hobbies, apart from the writing and the coaching.
So, can you describe for us what the onion analogy is all about?
The onion analogy is, to put it in simple terms, it's about looking at oneself in many layers. And I'm sure we've all heard about, we all have many layers. And on the surface is our persona, which the world sees and which we tend to show to our colleagues, our friends, our families. But there's also another layer below that, or deeper than that, which is our inner self, which is our mind and our hearts and the way we feel and think inside. And that's the part of us that not a lot of people get to see. Maybe our closest partners or friends may get to see that sometimes. But most of the time, that is the dialogue that goes on inside our minds. That is the feelings that we have when we see something or experience something. That is the behavior that starts in our thought processes before it becomes an action or a behavior. That's the next level. And at the very deepest level is our core self. And that's where we hold our deepest values, our belief systems, and the who we truly are. And in that chapter, I show people how to find that true self and how to use that exercise to really identify what that true persona is. And then I show them how to use that tool and how to use that understanding of themselves to create a much deeper awareness, so that it helps to grow self-esteem, it helps to grow one's self-knowledge, it helps for you to interact with the world in a more authentic way, so that you don't have to make so many excuses anymore. That's just one aspect, when you really know who you are, you don't have to try so hard to prove yourself. And that's one of the things we do as women, certainly, is, we're inundated by the media and everything we see around us to be a certain way, to think a certain way, to look a certain way, to speak a certain way. And some of that, all of that stuff is on the very outside of the onion. It's not even on the persona side. It's external. And that influences us so much that we can't even hear our own voice of who we truly are inside. So that exercise is about pulling away the layers so that you can really find out who you are and then fall in love with that who you are. And that, oh, I get goosebumps when I talk about it. This is so wonderful. When I've shown clients how to do that, they love that exercise, and it takes them to a whole new level. There's no going back once you do that exercise.
I look forward to actually doing the exercise for myself then.
Oh, I hope
But I
so.
like the way, you describe splitting yourself between your body, personality, mind, and spirit as well. The different levels. And I love the list of characteristics that you give to people as well. I might struggle with a few because essentially you think you're a shy person. But then actually, when you look a bit deeper, then actually there have been examples of where you've been really bold about
Mhm.
doing things, and you're not shy at all. Those type of characteristics tend to come up first. And as you said about how society likes to portray us as, you can't just be back, be bold and being, I don't know what the words are, but
Extrovert.
that's right. That's right. But modesty also gets cloaked in shyness and other things, which sometimes don't really match how we really feel about ourselves deep down inside. And obviously
Exactly.
the evidence shows that we are bold and that we are forthright and we know what we think. So there can be that dissonance that goes on there.
Mhm. Well, I think our cultures, our society, our families, and well, it's just the way human beings work. We like to put things in boxes. And from an early age, we're easily categorized into, oh, she's extrovert, or she's introvert, or she's outgoing, or she's loud, or she's vivacious, or she's, shy and quiet. And these labels, they kind of end up defining us, but they are not the true who we are. And this goes on as we get older, and we think we are that person. I was told that I was too gregarious, I was too boisterous, I was too loud, and I was told to be quiet as a teenager and I should shut up and listen and all that kind of thing. And as I've grown older, I've questioned all of that. And coming into my 20s, I was a completely different person in my mid 20s than who I was as a child or as a teenager. So I think as human beings, we are multifaceted. We shouldn't be put in boxes or categories. And even then, even when you do define your characteristics, you change as you get older, as you mature, as you have relationships, as you learn new things and see new places and experience new people. We all grow and develop and change. And therefore, we have to allow ourselves that flexibility and that adaptability. And it's the same in relationships. Relationships grow and evolve. Nobody stays the same.
And I was just about to say it would be boring if we just stayed the same and we didn't grow and we didn't have
Yes,
challenges and we didn't have things to overcome and didn't allow for growth in our
yes,
relationships. So
yes.
tell me, Nazish, how is this book linked to the work that you do as a coach?
I'll tell you the story. It's really funny because I started off as more of a business coach, and I studied occupational psychology, which is about business psychology. So I would coach people on changing their careers and finding their path in life. And then that evolved to finding life purpose. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. I still do that. But what happened along the way is I would have people come to me and talk about their most personal stuff, and kind of for some reason they would tell me about their private lives, their relationships, and I ended up coaching many people. And what happened is I coached people to try and find their true selves, and find, just by default, they kind of ended up getting coaching on their love lives. And I helped several people find their true life partners, and it kind of magically evolved from there into my coaching. So as a life coach, I'm now helping people find their way to healing from their heartbreaks and finding their way to a better relationship. So that's how the book's related to my work now. And I'm very excited about this new course I'm developing. I don't know if I should talk about that right now or.
Just had one question just before that. Is there an ebook that accompanies this?
Yes.
This as well. What's that ebook called? Is it me, myself, and?
Well,
Um,
I have worked with Book Boon. I don't know if you've heard about them, but I have a series of books called Am I Happy? And those are the ones that are more business orientated, but they are self-development books and they are ebooks. Yes. So
right. Okay.
I've written a whole bunch of books that are available online.
You said you wanted to talk more about the new workshop that you're developing. What's that
Yeah,
called?
it's based on the book. It's got 9 lessons, so 9 workshops, and there's going to be a lot more involved in that as well as the tools. And I'm going to be literally holding your hand, like, to go through this journey of healing. And the course is going to be called Finding Love Again. So I'm super excited about that, and I'm hoping to roll that out this summer. Yeah, it's really exciting. Stay tuned because I'm going to be talking about that quite soon on social media.
That's fantastic. I mean, and you can give some details here at the end of this interview as well. Nazish, are you okay to give us a few paragraphs from the book?
I'd love to. That would be great. So, this is a chapter called Peter Pan. Luckily, I soon acquired a steady job, which I really enjoyed, and my own place to live. Although I missed the sunshine and sea, it was good to be me again and do the work I was doing. I began to feel ready to open the door again for a better, healthier, and happier relationship. Using the visualization method, which I will explain more about later, I had an intention to attract only the right kind of man, someone who would be fun, positive, and truly appreciate me. He would not only be sweet and caring towards me, but also have his own home, a good job, and be self-sufficient. Well, as you can guess, the reason was because until then, my experience with men had always been the opposite. Men who could not support themselves financially or value me. Then, lo and behold, the genie appeared and granted the princess exactly that which she had wished for. Within a matter of months, she met a lovely man in a London dance club who turned out to be all that she had wanted. This is it! At last I've manifested the right one, she thought ecstatically, and began to dream of her happy ever after. This time, the princess had indeed stepped into a fairy tale Neverland and would learn how to fly. Only the wings were not quite as she had first imagined. So, sorry, that's from chapter 6 called Tuning into Magic. The last paragraph was in the flavor of old English fairy tales. And if you're like me, I used to love reading fairy tales when I was a child. So there are little excerpts in there which have the flavor as though they are written from fairy tales like Alice in Wonderland or Cinderella or something like that. But they are entirely my creation.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Tell me, what was the writing process like? How did you find Danny Bleckner from Conscious Dreams Publishing? And how long did it take you to write your book from an idea to it being published?
Well, the process was, let's say I actually enjoyed the whole process. It was amazing because the idea popped into my head when I was meditating one day, and I felt it like a download that just came, and I was so excited about this, and I was very, very dubious because I never ever thought I would talk about my private life in public. Oh my God, this was scary because I came from a background where it was taboo to have more than one relationship, and you don't talk about private things. But I suddenly began to realize that there were people who need to hear this story. So this started around 2019, late 2019, and this idea began to form in my head. And at the same time, I had conversation with a good friend, and she said, Naz, the world needs a book like this. When I told her that I want to create a book that's going to help people heal from heartbreak and talk about my stories. And she said, you really need to do this. And I was scared, but at the same time, I thought about it. And at the same time, it's amazing how these coincidences happen. But at the same time, I went on a conference in London, and that's where I met Dani Blacknell. And she was presenting about her publishing company. And that's where I presented about this story that I was going to write about. So that's where I started writing the story. And then lo and behold, we had lockdown, which was a perfect gift to me because it meant that all travels went out the window. I was stuck at home for 3 months at least, and I could fully concentrate on the book. So the first draft took me about 3 to 4 months of just writing, and it just flowed. And I was completely in the creative mode, and I so enjoyed that. So I would advise anyone who wants to be a writer is to allow yourself that creative process, that time to just let the words come and not be too critical about what's coming through, and then go back and edit it later. So I had plenty of time. And then once I'd finished writing the first draft, I got in touch with Dani again. So I contacted her when I first started, before I actually started writing. That's when I met her and I took her details. And then after I finished the first draft, I contacted her again. And she was brilliant. She immediately loved the idea. And once she had a chance to read it, she definitely said that this was one that she wanted to include in her repertoire. So, and then from there, it took another year or so because I had various things going on in my personal life with my family, and my mother passed away and I had to take care of her. So it would have come out maybe a year before, but I do believe in divine timing, and it came out in February this year. I'm super happy about that. It took 2 years from start to finish.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, like you, I believe that nothing happens before its time. I didn't realize up until now that you're a brand new author then. So, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Well, brand new as in paperback.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So, if people wanted to get hold of your book, where can they get it from?
Well, it's available on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble, Waterstones, and all the major book companies, book depository, and it's available as a paperback and as an ebook. So you can find out more on my website, jivondisha.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Nazish Qazi, and Instagram, Nazish S Qazi, and on Facebook under my page, Jivondisha Life Paths. So hopefully we'll leave some links after the podcast so people can find it.
If people wanted to perhaps work with you and have you coach them, how would they get in contact with you? Would that be through your website?
Yeah, they can just go into my website and there's a contact page. Just leave your email and I will definitely be in touch. It's only me, so you won't get inundated with spam and rubbish. So I do all my own stuff. I like to keep life simple. So I'm very selective about what projects I get involved with and whom I work with. It will be direct contact with me.
In terms of your new workshop that's coming out, people can find that on your website. And as you said, you're going to be doing a campaign around the workshop in the summer. So we look out for that also.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that.
Nazish, thank you so much for joining me on the Author to Author podcast. I feel as though we've just scraped the surface, but perhaps when you launch your workshop or release another book, please come back and tell us and give us an update on what you're doing and your future plans.
Oh, I would be absolutely delighted, Pam. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye for now.
I hope you enjoyed listening to my interview with Nazish. Would you like to win a copy of her book? At the time of her interview, Nazish was about to launch a series of workshops. What are the workshops called? If you know the answer, why not contact me on Instagram at Loving the Author by 5 p.m. on Friday for your chance to win a copy of her book, Lessons from a Frog Princess, Heal from Heartbreak and Magically Manifest True Love. Have a wonderful week ahead, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye for now.